Converting fractions to decimals with number chips. This is the pirate version, and this is a digital lesson. It's a lot of fun for the students. They like to move these number chips around their screen. So it's a scaffolded lesson. It starts very simple and it moves students very slowly into more difficult problems. So it just starts with asking the students what number we multiply by each of these numbers in order to get 100. And that will help them when they have to convert a fraction to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So they have 5 number chips here. They have to use every single one. And every slide has every number that the students need. This helps the students if they're frustrated or they're having difficulty because they know that they have to use every number. And that way, if they get to the end of some of these more difficult problems, the numbers aren't working, they know that they have to go back and check for errors. So starting here, we know that we multiply 50 times 2 to get 100. So they just click and hold on the edge of these chips. 25 we have to multiply by 4. These are very easy, very common conversions that students should memorize. 20 we multiply times 5. 10 multiply times 10, and 5 times 20. Now, the next slide has students just converting these fractions to equivalent fractions with 100 in the denominator. So, to be an equivalent fraction, they have to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number. So here we know we have to multiply 50 times 2 to get 100. So that means we have to also multiply 9 times 2. And that gives us an equivalent fraction of 1800ths. 8/20, so we know we have to multiply 20 times 5, so we have to also multiply 8 times 5, and we get 40 hundredths, and so on. And again, you'll use every single number. The next slide has a review of place value, so students need to place these numbers in the correct place following the instructions. So here, place your 4 in the ones place. Well, they have to click and hold on the edge of the 4 and place it here in the ones place. The 1 goes in the tenths place with a TH, so that means it goes here. 8 in the hundreds place. 3 in the hundredths place with TH. 7 in the thousandths place. And they're 5 in the tens place. So here again, if the numbers aren't working, they need to go back and look again. Now, they're also going to be shown here on the next slide how to change a fraction with 100 in the denominator to a decimal. So here's one way to do that. Now, if they have 100 in the denominator, then in their numerator, the number on the right has to go in that hundreds place. So the 9 has to go here, the 3 has to go here, and the 0 has to go here, the number on the right. Now we can easily fill in the other numbers. So 49 hundredths is going to look like this as a decimal. 13 hundredths, and that has to be a 0. And then 180 hundredths. Okay, now when they get to the next slide, now they're going to be just converting these fractions straight to decimals. So here they've got 55 hundredths, and this is how we would read 55 hundredths if we're reading the decimal. 82 hundredths. And again, they know from the previous slide that if they have 100 in the denominator, in the numerator, the number on the right will go in the hundreds place. So they get a little bit of practice there. Next slide, same thing. The only tricky part of this one is 5 hundredths. The 5 has to go in the hundreds place. It cannot go in the tenths place. And then the next one, they've got 3-digit numbers in the numerator. And again, here that 1 has to go in the hundreds place, and the 8 has to go in the hundreds place. And then they just fill in the rest of the numbers. 331, 478. Now students are going to be given some fractions that don't have 100 in the denominator, and they have to convert them to fractions with 100 in the denominator. So this one, to get 100 in the denominator, we have to multiply times 50. So 2 times 50 and 1 times 50, that would give us 50 hundredths. And they should know by now how to change that to a decimal, 50 hundredths. This one, to get 100 in the denominator, we have to multiply by 25. Well, 3 times 25 is 75. So they get 75 hundredths as a decimal. So it just moves very slowly, gives the students a chance to master each step. And same thing in the next slide. Again, they're going to be converting their denominator to 100. And the next slide, same thing, a little bit more practice. Now, sometimes it doesn't work. There's nothing we can multiply by 40 or 15 to get 100. So sometimes we have to simplify first. So if we simplify this fraction, if we divide by 2, we're going to get 3 20ths. So then we can multiply, we can find an equivalent fraction here by multiplying by 5. And we get 15 hundredths, which we can change to a decimal. Here, if we simplify and divide by 3, we get 1/5. We're going to multiply numerator and denominator by 20, and we get 20 hundredths, and then we can change that into a decimal. Okay, the next slide, well, there are fractions that we can't convert to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. In that case, we have to divide. So here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify. So 3/24, if we divide by 3, we get 1/8. Now we can't convert that to a fraction with 100 in the denominator, so we're just going to use long division, 1 divided by 8. So students are going to use the number chips to do their long division. 8 goes into 10 one time. 8 times 1 is 8. Subtract. Bring down, and these have to be zeros. So then we bring down a 0. 8 goes into 20 two times. 8 times 2 is 16. So this is also good practice for their long division. And it helps for the students to know that they have to use every single number. And they get down to the end here, and 8 goes evenly into 40, so they get an answer of 125 thousandths. They're going to do the same thing on the next slide. Here, when they simplify, they get 3/8, so 3 divided by 8. And then on this last one, they're going to get a repeating decimal as an answer. So here, they're going to end up with a 6 that repeats. And so they're going to use this little bar over the 6 to show that it's repeating. It ends with some decimals vocabulary. And so that is converting fractions to decimals with number chips. And this is the pirate version.